So everyone, I'm Karen Gloss, and I'm the director of the Center for Career Development and Alumni Engagement. And I would just want to thank our panelists for taking time out of their schedule to be with us to share their educational and professional journeys with our students and prospective students. Just a couple of housekeeping issues. Please keep yourselves muted so that we don't have any kind of background noises. We will be recording this session so that our professors can share it with students who were unable to attend. And if you have questions, type them into the chat as you think of them so that you don't forget what they are. So we will have time for Q&A at the end. And I am going to turn it over to Professor Sejuno, who will be moderating the panel this evening.
Look at you. You practiced my last name too.
I
well
did.
Done. Hi, everyone. Some of you had me, some of you did not. So it's nice to see so many faces here. I got really excited when I was looking at the registrants because I assumed it would be all my students who I'm offering extra credit if they come and take wonderful notes tonight. And there are so many of you that are not my students. So that's really exciting that we were able to hold this event that actually was of interest to you. And I think it will serve value. I think one of the reasons I was really excited to be able to be a part of this was because during this COVID time, sometimes it's really hard to see out the other end of any tunnel in life. And I think this opportunity to kind of remember why we all are doing what we do and see people who've been sitting in our seats in the past be successful and hear their stories. I know so many of my students every semester ask me a lot about transfer and transfer institutions. So the opportunity to hear from people who have gone through those processes is really invaluable to them. And we really are so grateful for you taking the time to be with us. And I'm sure that the panelists are glad they're not speaking to like just 2 students. So thank you for attending too. Without further ado, I'll just introduce the panel. Again, they haven't all been my students, so forgive me if I mispronounce last names. Lynn Chromiak, and Lynn, I don't know if you want to wave.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for coming. You are a graduate of 2005, I believe, of NCC. And what we're going to do is after this, each of the, in the order that I introduce them, each participant will give us just a little snapshot of themselves and how they got to where they are professionally and anything they'd like to share, words of wisdom, etc. Maybe your number one thing, right? We all have a thing, whether it's mental health, whether it's equity and inclusion, whether it's reading and writing, right? The importance of XYZ. So if you want to give us that little shout out, that would, I'm sure, reinforce what they're learning in the classrooms. And she's an assistant principal in Southern Lee High School District at my daughter's school, actually, which is the intermediate school, which is 4th through 6th grade, right?
Yep.
And how long have you been a vice principal there?
It will be 2 years in April.
Great. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
And then we have Keena Harris McMillian. Did I say it right?
Yeah.
All right. Keena, I was lucky enough to have Keena as a student. And she is a child care director at Pride and Joy Education Center. And she has done like, I don't even know, 4,000 classes. She has a degree, I think, in general education with all the early childhood credits. She's working through our director's credential now. And it sounds like she's also at East Stroudsburg, you said?
Yes. Yep.
Right. Working on your bachelor's?
Yes.
Great. Good for you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So I think you'll find that's a common theme, right? We all just keep coming back for more. We also have Sarah Horwath, right, who graduated in 2018. Poor Sarah was one of my first students at NCC, right? So she went through the first full-time semester of my teaching at NCC, which was super exciting to watch her and all her peers graduate as my first graduating class, and then graduate in the spring during the pandemic from their 4-year institutions, and then all go on to get jobs in schools, which has been so exciting. So I thought of her immediately when we were having this event. And she's working as a elementary school teacher at the Arts Academy Elementary Charter School. We have Nicholas Nira, who's from the class of 2005 and is a coach, clearly, of track and field and a paraprofessional in the Pocono Mountain School District. And we're
Thank you for having me.
What was that? It was so exciting to have male representation on our panel too, and not just one token male, but two. So we're very excited about that. We've got Elise Nieves. She's was from our class of 2017, and she's a freshman English teacher at Liberty High School. Then we have Jeremy Smale from our class of 04. Is it weird hearing the years? It probably is, right? Yeah. He's an early education manager at Community Services for Children. And finally, Jennifer Zingalis.
Close, Zingalis.
Zingalis, thank you. I apologize.
Okay.
Class of 92, coordinator of special education at the Colonial Intermediate Unit. Okay, so I'm going to be quiet, which is hard for me. And we're going to start with Lynn, if you'd like to share with us your story. And I think Karen mentioned it, but you can set up your Zoom settings for view that if you put active speaker, that person will get nice and big for you.
Okay, thank you. So I did graduate from Northampton Community College in 2005. I would say some of my better experiences Northampton gave me were they gave me a solid foundation for education, as well as a lot of classroom observation hours and opportunities to observe and reflect and write about and talk about my experiences in the classroom. So I think one of the most valuable things at Northampton was the experiences that I got to have in the classroom and then come back to the Northampton classroom to talk about them. So that was great. After Northampton, I did transfer to East Stroudsburg University, and I have my degree in elementary and special education. I started off my career as a special education teacher, and I moved into a reading specialist role. I continued to go to school. I know somebody before was talking about continuing to go to school. So tonight is actually kind of full circle for me. I started at Northampton, and I am actually defending my dissertation tonight for my doctoral degree. So along the way, like I said, I went to East Stroudsburg. I got my reading specialist certification. I moved into that role for several years in the Nazareth Area School District. And I never stopped going to school. And I think that's important when you love what you're doing and you love learning and you love growing. And, you know, the things that you talked about, I think those things kind of changed for me over the years. You know, my focus really was on helping students with special needs, then helping kids learn how to read. And now really just making connections with kids, and so the social emotional learning component is so important for the well-being of students, and also just making sure you take care of yourself along the way too. So all of those things are very important. I'm still going to school. I'm almost done finally, but I still don't think this is it for me. I'm sure I will find courses and classes to take in the future. But I did start and graduated at Northampton from 2003 to 2005. And as I said, it really did lay a solid foundation for my educational experiences.
Well, first of all, I can't believe you're here on the evening of your dissertation defense.
I committed to this first, so.
You are amazing. We would not have forgiven, we would have forgiven you had you, we would not have blamed you had you backed out on us. And you brought it up. So now we just need to know real quickly what your topic is.
So I did a mixed method study of the alignment of Pennsylvania leadership standards, preparation and practice of novice administrators. So I've always been interested in looking at the teacher aspect and how teachers learn and how they put things into practice and if they're relevant. But I decided to go on the path of administrators since that was kind of more relevant to me as a new administrator.
Yeah, great. Well, congratulations and good luck.
Thank you so much.
So next time you come, ittle be Dr.
Yeah.
Chromiak.
Hopefully.
Very exciting. Hopefully it will be, I'm sure. So anybody, I forgot to say, and maybe Karen did, that if you have questions along the way, whether it's for specific participants or whether it's just a broad question, please feel free to put them in the chat. And Chris Lincoln, the Director of Education's here, and I didn't even let her introduce herself, sorry. I'm sure will help us to monitor the chat. Do you want to say hi, Chris?
Hi there. Happy to help.
Okay. So next we have Kina.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kina. I'm currently the director, as Amanda mentioned, at Pride and Joy Daycare. So my journey has been so long, let me tell you. But I began at Northampton Community College, and initially I just went in as a gen ed student, just wasn't sure, starting at a young age. We kind of know what we want to do, but we're not too certain, and that's okay. As Amanda mentioned, I have so many credits, and as I come to terms with, I realize working in the childcare field that I feel as teachers, we tend to get comfortable and our routine of just every day going into the classroom and doing lesson planning and putting in that time and effort and activities, we kind of fall short of ourselves. Kind of how Len mentioned, we have to remember to kind of maintain ourselves and maintain our professional development. And as teachers, over time goes by, we take workshops and we do different trainings and we learn different skills and different things of that nature. But I realized, okay, I need to go back to school, and I think I can learn a lot more, and there's always room and growth for more knowledge, especially in the childcare field, I feel. So I attended Northampton, registered again, and started picking up more courses, along with being a mother and working full time and just learning how to balance everything and how time management is very important. There were times where I would take courses online versus in person because of time management and working and being a parent. But I've learned so much from Northampton. It's an awesome school. I learned definitely from the professors to just continue pressing on. And even if you may feel I need a break or just take one course here or there, but don't stop. It's best to just continue, and you will eventually reach the end goal, whatever your ending goal may be. I learned so many new things, definitely observations. We feel at the time it's kind of like tedious, but you learned so many new things. It kind of makes you take a step back from your classroom or maybe the age group that you are currently working with and just kind of seeing things from a perspective and learning new things, like I said, about maybe an age group that you're not currently working with. So I become more well-rounded in the field as a teacher. And then I was placed into the acting director role was kind of all of a sudden. But being that our childcare center is family owned, my grandmother, who was the current owner, got ill. So I was placed in a directing role. And I had had many years of experience, and I was kind of hesitant at first. And I remember like talking to Amanda about it, and she was very helpful and just supplied so much reassurance that I was going to be okay and that I was going to do great. And brought me to where I'm at now. And I'm currently a NCC graduate, and now I'm pressing forward to complete my bachelor's through East Stroudsburg. I completed my director's credential through Clarion University. So I've definitely had my times of different schools and just learning so many new things in the field. And every professor that I've come in contact with and every teacher has given me so much growth and so much knowledge to use and implement in my job now as a director at the Child Care Center. So I just encourage you guys to just keep pressing on. And like I said, if it's important, self-care is very important, especially in the time that we're at right now with everything going on in the world. We have to find balance. And it's important to always make sure you're caring for yourselves along with the safety and the caring of the children too.
So one of the students, Kina, really liked what you said about time management. And I think you've kind of come full circle there and talking about even with adding self-care into that time. So
Yes,
any
definitely.
pointers about how to juggle all those balls, time management pointers for the students?
I think as students, as myself, like I said, being a current student still too, I think sometimes we fall so short of just routine and just, okay, I have to get this done, I have to get this done, and also get this done. What I find is very helpful, and I tell my staff now that are currently students at NCC and at other colleges, dedicate certain days for certain classes. Maybe this day I'm going to work on this day I'm going to work on this, but it's better to kind of separate and do things piece by piece versus trying to dedicate 3 full hours at one time or 4 hours at one time, because sometimes you just have to step back. There's a lot of times where I've started things, I just had to take a break and just come back to it. Especially with childcare, I feel like our days are different. Every day is different. Every child is different. And you're just going to come in contact and experiences in different situations and scenarios where you have to learn how to balance those things and also balance your home lives. Like I said, as a parent, and I was a young parent, I had to learn how to balance not only parenthood, but also going to school and working full time. But definitely time management will definitely help you. And it is a must, especially with if you're doing online courses. I know right now with all of us mainly being with COVID, we are online, and with the Zoom sessions and things like that, you just have to find balance, and it'll definitely be beneficial, and it'll help out in the end, definitely.
Thanks for sharing that. One of the things that one of my graduate peers shared with us over the summer and that I thought was ridiculous in the moment, but I now do regularly, is for those of you with older children, I actually write papers in my car during their sporting like classes, lessons, activities. I try to be present for games and competitions, but if I have to be in the car anyway, sitting there for 45 minutes, I might as well get my reading done or my discussion board done or work on a paper, right? So sometimes it's squeezing in time to do work when we already have downtime. So instead of scrolling through Instagram, take that time to listen to a chapter of your textbook or something.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Sarah.
Hi, so I graduated from Northampton in 2014. This is technically my second career. I started out of high school. I graduated with my cosmetology license. I got that through Votech. I had my son and I decided I didn't want to do hair anymore. So at the time I was currently going to Northampton for marketing to kind of branch off of what my license was. And so I already had credits built and I started education and I just loved it. I loved everything about it. I liked being able to relate it to my own life. My son, when I started, was 6 months old. So it was kind of neat to do that. And Northampton really helped with my schedule. I am a single mom, so I had to work too and do classes. So I also did a majority of probably the first year to the first year and a half online. And it just helped me be at home with my son and still do stuff on my terms, but also work because I had to continue working full time. And then after that, I graduated and went to DeSales. So I just graduated in May, actually, in the middle of the pandemic. But Northampton really set me up for a lot of stepping stones in my life. My internship that I did through Northampton, I actually got a job offered from there. So it helped me get experience. And then my son actually went to school there. So that was very helpful when he was old enough. And then also with my current job, I currently work as a 4th grade teacher in an arts charter school, which my lessons plans also have to incorporate the arts. So Art of a Way of Learning, when I was at Northampton, it really set me up to having that basis to incorporate those into my lesson plans now. Also with DeSales, I went into DeSales and I had already done many lesson plans, of course, and they were long, and that's fine. And they really set me up for what I did at DeSales because I had people in my classes who had yet to even write one lesson plan, and I went in, have already done a whole internship. Also, when it came to graduation, I already had a resume started that I could add to. I had to make a new portfolio. Everyone else in my class had to start from scratch. I had my portfolio started, my TEOC, that huge 20-pound binder that we made every year. I had that started that I could pull from. So it really just helped me with that, get a lot of stepping stones for that. And it taught me to make connections through everything and keep in contact with professors and mentors that I had, different teachers at both places. I actually took over the job of one of my mentors from DeSales. I kept in contact with her. I did the interview. I didn't know I was applying for her job, but then she helped me. She, gave me my good word. So just, keeping contact with people and networking too. So Northampton really set me up. It helped with my lifestyle that I had with my son and having to work, and then setting me up for DeSales and making me feel confident. Internship, I worked through the whole thing too. And then when it came to student teaching, I didn't have a choice. I also had to work with student teaching. So I had already had the basis of knowing, okay, so I have to find a way to make this work for me. I used to go to my job in the morning, go to student teaching, and go to my job after. But I had already kind of figured out how to manage my time and what worked with me. And it really just helped me set up for everything. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. And I think one of the questions that I was going to pose and just kind of could put out there for food for thought, right, was how even has your experiences at Northampton, because I think that's a lot of our students, right? We are all juggling 10 balls. We're not the typical college where four-year students, this is their whole world, is their life on campus, right? A lot of us come and go. And how has that helped you to adapt to the COVID situation in teaching and, working with families and your district and all the policies? And I'm sure you can speak to that from the student teaching side and as a new teacher. I mean, the first year of a new teacher, if you don't already know, can be quite overwhelming. So to do that during a pandemic, can you talk a little bit about that?
So my first placement was student teaching, I finished. I started my second one, and I believe I think I was only 2 weeks into it, and they said, you're going home, you're doing virtual, you're done. And my first thought as someone who has now been in college for 6 years was, oh my gosh, I thought I was going to graduate and now I have to go another year and push it on. And I had everything planned, and, I had everything in place, and it was kind of thrown off. My student teachers that I had were phenomenal. They threw me into the virtual setting. I actually, my second placement wasn't doing too much with virtual. They were kind of waiting to see what would happen. They did end up progressing. So I went back to my first one, and she was great. She let me go in. She let me do the teaching with that. It was very nerve-wracking because everything I had never done a virtual class in my life. And now I've been teaching since the beginning of the school year, and I haven't taught in person once. I'm going back hybrid starting the fourth quarter, so I will finally get to meet some of my students. But I went to college for 6 years and learned how to be in person, and now I'm virtual. So it was very overwhelming, but my student teacher mentors really helped me. And just stuff that I already learned, like, for example, making communications with families. My biggest support right now is my parents. I message my parents on Dojo 24/7, because if that kid, my student, leaves, I have fourth graders. They know what to do. They know how to put their phone down and think I can't see it. I can tell them to stop. Some of my kids are great and will stop. Some of them I have to message that parent, and they will get right on there and they will tell them to put it away. So having that parent communication, but also taking the time to build the relationships with your students. There's so much that I feel like I'm missing out on it with my kids. So just taking the time to really get to know them and put that in stuff we do. My whole time at NAC was, taking the time to learn your child that you're doing your child study on and everything like that. So now just taking that, and instead of having one kid to focus on, I'm doing that with 18. But yeah, just the communication and just taking the time to get to know the kids, and the social emotional level. How is it affecting my kids right now that they have not seen their friends in months? I have kids that aren't seeing anyone. So just taking the time to check on their well-being and how they are doing. Sometimes that's a little bit more important than the academic side too, than what we're doing. So yeah, but it's going well. You could do it. If you end up graduating this year and have to be virtual, it's overwhelming, but it's really, you'll get it. I got it, and okay, and lean on your support, my co-teachers, and they'll help you. So yeah.
Great. Thank you for sharing. Kudos to everyone out there who's had to turn on a dime, right? In all the different settings. It's been crazy. All right. Next we have Nicholas.
All right. Can everyone hear me? I'm good to go. Okay, awesome. So my name is Nicholas Nira. I am in my 11th year as a paraprofessional for the Pocono Mountain School District. I went to Northampton Community College and graduated in 05. From there, I transferred over to East Stroudsburg University for secondary ed education in mathematics. And it was primarily because of my time that I had at Northampton Community College. When I started at Northampton, I actually wanted to get into photography and art and was told very quickly that's not offered at the Monroe campus at the time. So needless to say, that was next. So back to the drawing board and went back to general studies. So I was approached by the then director of the Learning Center to come and work for her at the tutoring center in mathematics because she saw me tutoring someone like just sitting on like against one of the walls or whatever, and basically like created the path that I'm on right now. Fast forward to ESU, I had to take some time off. With that being said, because of my degree and my associates in education, I was able to get this position that I'm in right now as a paraprofessional. And with that being said, it gave me so many opportunities to meet a number of people and learn a number of things. I've worked in every area of education from autistic support and special education, life skills, MDS classroom, alternative education, cyber. I've been trained in anger regression training through restorative practices. I'm also trained as a trainer for restorative practices, which is based out of Bethlehem. I've been trained trauma-informed school, which is a big thing right now. I don't know if you guys have been discussing that in your classes as far as like the trauma-informed part of it or the social emotional learning side of everything. Growth mindset, mindfulness, a lot of this stuff I wouldn't have been able to be taught without my initial going to Northampton Community College and having my associates, which goes to where I'm at now. I was able to use my time at Pocono Mountain School District to have them pay for my classes, to then finish my bachelor's degree in applied mathematics, and then finish my master's certification for secondary ed, which I'm in right now at ESU, and I'll be student teaching in the fall. Just like everyone else had talked about as far as time management and everything goes, I had my first child, my daughter, 2 years ago while I was actually finishing up my bachelor's of mathematics degree. So that was a little bit interesting dealing with that stuff. And at the same time, I'm juggling 2 sports, fall and spring, plus working full time, just trying to do everything I possibly can to be able to get to that end goal, right? And that's the biggest thing. Like when you're at Northampton, you look at yourself in the moment of what I have to do right now, rather than where you want to see yourself in the future. And that's the biggest thing to take away is that Northampton will set you up for success for your future and not for the moment. And that's one thing that helps me remind myself day to day that it's okay to look at where you started from to know where you're going. And you take that mantra and you also instill that in your students. And that's why I love like where I'm at right now is placed in emotional support for 7th grade. And along my journey, I was able to actually find a part-time job as a BHT, which is a behavioral health technician, which used to be called a PSS. And I used it off of an associate's degree in education and my time that I had as a paraprofessional. So it's also, you can also look at it as co-curricular, where you can possibly find a career in something that you may have never even taken in psychology or behavioral health class in college. So the opportunities are endless. And right now it helps, like, working in this digital landscape, paraprofessionals are a dime a dozen. So if anyone is interested after graduating in May, if there are any graduates, I know Pocono Mountain School District has been looking for a lot of paraprofessionals because of the special education services that we provide. So other than that, that's about it, to say the least. So do you have any questions for me?
So I do. What's your end goal? Do you think you'll stay a paraprofessional? Do you love that
Not at
work
all.
so much? No.
No. When in doubt, move forward. So my end goal, which is what I'm finishing right now. So after I finished my bachelor's degree in applied mathematics, my end goal was to get back to square one, whereas when I wanted to be secondary at math. So I already had taken my Praxis 2. I missed passing the certification of that by one question. So I have to take that in the summer. It's okay. It is what it is. But I have my last 2 classes right now at ESU. I'm taking my SEM class and my teaching of math, and then I would be student teaching in the fall, which, best case scenario, I pass the Praxis 2 in the summer and I can start applying for jobs with an internship certification through ESU. So.
Well, good luck. And I will echo what Nick said. I know I have friends, a friend, my neighbor, who's a child psychologist for the IU, but works with Allentown, Parkland, and maybe East Penn school districts. And she said the same thing. Paraprofessionals, they love you if you have an education background, and it is a great way to get your foot in the door and to, like Nick did, use the district to help pay for your continued education. If you have to work anyway, might as well be really strategic about who that employer is, right? And I'm sure Nick could speak to the connections you make and knowing what jobs are coming available and kind of having a foot in the door that way. Thank you. All right, Elise.
Hello. So just as we were finishing up there, my pets decided to go nuts. So now I'm trying to relocate. But hopefully we don't hear them from the other room now. So I graduated from Northampton Community College in 2017. And I had just graduated high school in 2015. Then I graduated my bachelor's in 2019. So the entire process has been very quick for me as compared to a lot of other people. So going into NCC, I kind of knew that I wanted to be a teacher, but I wasn't completely sure. I just was like, as always, I'm very indecisive. So I just kept on thinking about different possibilities. And eventually I was like, you know what, I'm just going to try NCC, see if I like it, and go from there. So from the moment I went into my first introductory class at NCC, I just realized this was the place that I wanted to be. So immediately afterwards, I had decided, all right, I'm going to hook up with the transfer counselor, talk about how to get me all set for the next 4 years so I can achieve my goals. So in the first couple of courses at Northampton, I, as Sarah had mentioned, I did a lot of observations, I did tutoring, I got to do a lot of lesson planning, and all of that absolutely prepared me for when I moved on to the next step. But some interesting things about NCC that I think helped me even more too were the fact that I had just kept on trying new things and trying to take advantage of all the opportunities that the school offered. So I actually decided to work with the Phi Theta Kappa Honor Society, and that ended up being the reason why I could go to Moravian following that. Additionally, I also did study abroad while I was at Northampton too, which honestly, I don't even know what gave me the courage to try that out. But from NCC, I realized that I absolutely love traveling, and it's something that I talk about with my students all the time. So overall, I just had a really incredible experience for the entire 2 years that I was there. Following me getting my associates in education at NAC, I moved on to Moravian, where I got my bachelor's in English and I got my secondary ed certification. Thankfully, all of my credits transferred over perfectly, pretty much. So I managed to be able to finish that in 2 years. And honestly, it was all because of the fantastic transfer counselor that I had talked to throughout my entire experience there. I kid you not, I met with her every semester to plan out my courses throughout the entire process, and it really helped me out. So the entire time that I was in college, I also, I worked, I babysat, I was really busy, but I was just very determined and flexible, which is what pretty much kept me going. At Moravian, I had a lot more field experience, which solidified everything for me. And I also ended up doing an extra experience at a program called Summer Bridge. So Summer Bridge was a 6-week teaching program where you taught full time before you even student taught. So this is something that you could start even if you are just a freshman going into sophomore year or a sophomore going into junior year. It's not something you have to wait for, which honestly, I wish I would have done it a little bit sooner. But between all of those observation experiences, I felt prepared to eventually start teaching as soon as I graduated from college. So unlike most people, I had started off right at 22 in a high school. And for me, that's been a little bit challenging because I look at the students and I'm like, wow, you guys look older than me. So just having all of that experience really, I think made me well-rounded and made me feel more confident despite looking younger than a lot of my kids. But overall, I had a lot of great mentors along the way. I still keep in contact with all of them, and I enjoyed the experiences that I had.
Great, thank you. So Elise, there's this ongoing urban legend that there are no jobs in education. 1 million graduating education students and no jobs to be had. Was that your experience?
Not
and
at
Lynn,
all.
I see you shaking your head. So as a vice president, you get to go next, or a vice principal, you get to go next. But go ahead, Elise.
Actually, when I applied, right as soon as I got my bachelor's degree, 3 positions for English teachers opened up in BASD. So I was interviewing for 3 different English positions. So there was that. I applied around at Wilson area high school too. So I found things. It took a bit of applying until I found the one that stuck, but I was okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Lynn, did you want to speak to that?
Sure. I can definitely say that is not true. We're always posting and looking for teachers as well as paraprofessionals. We have had a lot of interviews and postings. Just in my 2 short years being in this position, we have hired several different people. So I would say that there's a lot of opportunities and a lot of jobs out there.
Great. And so do you think that COVID will make it more difficult for teachers who are starting their education degree now to get teaching jobs in a few years? Or do you think that it will be the opposite? That's a question actually from a student.
I have found in our practice that it isn't. I actually think that right now, this is the longest I've had open positions. I've been doing this for 10 years, hiring teachers, associate teachers, speech therapists. And this is the most openings that we've had for the longest period of time. I think people are hesitant to come into the schools, maybe finding some, concern for, their safety and their well-being, and not certain if there would be continual jobs or things like that. So at least in early intervention, we have not had that, that we haven't, been able to, that we haven't had positions open.
Thank you. Yeah, as a mama, I just know from my children's schools, I see a lot of teachers retiring, a lot of teachers retiring. So I think you're coming into education at a really great time. Thank you, Elise. And Jeremy.
Hello. I came at this in a little bit of a different way. I was already working in the field of early childhood education before I started taking classes. So I was very fortunate to get linked up with a group called the Women's Leadership Initiative, who were willing to offer the opportunity for a group of us to enter into Northampton Community College and East Stroudsburg at the same time. So I was actually taking my associate's and bachelor's courses at the same time at night, which meant for the majority of the time, I was taking 1 to maybe 2 courses each semester. So if you look at just timelines, I should have a doctor's by my name as well, but that is not the way it worked out. But it was, when I think back to Northampton, we already had some experience and in the classroom. It was always the collaboration between the professors and ourselves and the students and each other that really stood out at that time, because it was one thing to look at a practice or look at a best practice, but it was another thing to then talk about it and discuss how it would look, how it would work, and how would it fit into what we're doing right now. That really made all the difference, that you could then take back the next morning and apply in your room in a way that impacted the children that you were seeing every day. And there were ideas that came out of those groups that I don't know that I would have come up with on my own. So just listening to each other and recognizing that what you know now can be molded into like a force that can change an entire field. So please understand that. I feel like I really should point out that Community Services for Children is hiring right now. And put your resume in and we will see you soon, hopefully. And some of that does go back to this COVID situation. There are a lot of teachers, even in the school districts that we have classrooms in. Some of them are opting not to come back, and it is opening up positions for newer faces. One of the things that has kept me with the Head Start program is equity. And it kept me there before I realized it was equity, because we deal with a group of people, a group of students and families that sometimes do not have the same opportunities that every other group does. So coming to work every day with the Head Start program, you're getting the opportunity to impact children's lives that might have skated underneath the radar until they hit kindergarten. And by that time, for some of these developmental milestones, it would have been too late. So just having that impact and seeing that impact 2-3 years later, when you see somebody out and the parents remember you and they come running up to you and they're telling you about how their child is doing in school, and they're the ones telling you that they know that it was because of what you did in the classroom, because it carried them through and gave them that love of learning at such an early age.
What did I do? Oh, okay.
And I could continue talking about myself all night, but if anybody has any questions, I'd rather answer those.
Anyone? Well, I was going to ask you to speak
Yeah.
a little bit about the equity piece. And I don't
So
know if you want to tie that into COVID or just early childhood in general or socioeconomic. Yeah, I mean, we could go, we
yeah,
could have a Jeremy equity hour, but we won't.
maybe next week.
Yeah.
Really, equity goes beyond COVID. Like this goes back all the way to where Head Start came from, Lyndon B. Johnson. It's really one of those programs that was forward thinking in a way that doesn't always happen. They recognized that children that are living in poverty don't inherently have the same opportunities as children that are living middle class to higher income levels. And they said, well, how can we help them be successful? They could have thrown more money at the families, but it was discovered, or someone did their homework and realized that early childhood education, if you invest the money there, the gains are ongoing throughout their lives. So to educate them earlier gave more children the opportunity to be successful in elementary school, middle school, high school, attend college, and then become a more productive member of society, as opposed to following a different path that could have left society putting money out, whether it be for jails or for welfare or for any other program that is out there. It gave these children the opportunity to then step up and be part of a better society, as opposed to just following a less beneficial path. For COVID was a fastball that came at everybody sideways. We are a preschool program that is now operating in a hybrid model, that had been operating in a virtual model. Sarah was talking about her fourth graders who are able to navigate, their phones and laptops. We are not always as fortunate when it comes to that. We and it's the same deal. We have to engage with the parents and get the parents to sit there. Sometimes we've had parents that have literally run around the house with the iPad behind the child so that the child can hear what's being said, even though the child is not actually looking at the screen. So there's challenges. There's challenges on all fronts with that. But it's also forced us to think outside the box, because a preschool program operating virtually, I don't know that would have been on anybody's radar leading up to this. And there are some things that I hope we hold on to. Class Dojo was not a program that we were utilizing, and I truly hope that we hold on to that, because it has made communication with families so much more back and forth. They're more willing to communicate with us on that than they ever were with text messages, phone calls, drop-in visits. So COVID is a learning experience. There are some things that we're finding that I don't know what we're going to do with. Having a hybrid model, you have the same number of children coming into the classroom, but you have now split them up between different parts of the week. Instead of having 20 children Monday through Friday, you have 10 Monday, Tuesday. Wednesday is a deep cleaning day. You have the other 10 children on Thursday, Friday. What that does is it opens you up to have more individualized content per child. If you do have a child that needs special attention, either because of developmental delays or behavioral delays, it gives you the opportunity to really focus on that child more than you would if you had the full 20 children in your classroom. Now, is that sustainable as a program going forward once restrictions are taken away? I don't think so, but we learned some things from it. And those are things that we can take to our policymakers and say, listen, COVID was bad, but this is something that we learned from it that maybe we want to take a look at and decide, can we make some adjustments? Can we get those class sizes down a little bit more so that we can provide that individualized instruction on a bigger level than we are when it's 20 to two teachers?
Great, thank you. And we had a question in the chat box about infant and toddler. So Jeremy works with Head Start, right? But at the same kind of campus is Early Head Start, which is the infant toddler program. And it's an incredible program. They have two locations, one there and one at Lehigh Valley Hospital, I think on 17th Street in Allentown. And they work specifically with drug and alcohol impacted students, and usually are placed there through Department of Welfare. So if you wanted to work with infants and toddlers and have this kind of love of equity work, et cetera, that's also an incredible opportunity within that organization for infants and toddlers. So that they're out there, these jobs are out there, friends, I promise. Thank you, Jeremy. And Jennifer, welcome.
Hello, I'm Jen Zingalis. I am the coordinator of special education for early intervention services at the IU20. So if you're not familiar with that is, it's 3 to 5 year olds who have various disabilities, all the way from, children with autism to we provide many services, hearing support, speech and language support, occupational therapy. I started my career at NCC. My parents had been through my brother wasted a lot of money at an expensive college and wasn't quite ready for that. My parents knew that I was really college bound, but I needed to find that for myself. And now as a parent of a college student, NCC is certainly a great affordable way to start and get a quality education. I'm so fortunate to have had that opportunity and to do that. I'm happy to kind of keep coming back. It seems like all roads lead me back to NCC in one way or another over the course of my career. But I started out, got my early childhood degree, went on to ESU to get my elementary certification. They said, don't do special ed. I got out and they said, why don't you have any special ed? So I started I worked in childcare, didn't see the money happening there, went to the IU and found my way, went into special education. They had a program through LTRI-C and DeSales University at the time because they were so desperately in need of special education teachers. So I took an additional, 18 credits, got my certification in special ed, started teaching immediately at the IU. Did that for several years, was fortunate enough to be Teacher of the Year, I believe in 96 or something like that. And while I was going back to get my master's and my supervisory certificate, while I had young children, and did that at ESU as well. And I have been one of the coordinators of special ed for the past 10 years. So again, it seems like all roads lead me back to NCC. I love coming back and being able to give and to speak at the college if at all possible. We've had many students come and observe at the center that I supervise, and we've been able to hire some people there. So it's been wonderful. Some of the students will stop and say, hi, Jen. And, so it's been really nice to know that I've been able to make that impact on them and wanting to come and work for the intermediate unit. Certainly it's a great place to work. And I think it gives you, people have been putting in the chat about, wanting to explore different options. I think the IU is a great way to do that. When I was going back for my bachelor's, I only worked 4 days a week. I subbed on my 5th day, and it really helped me to learn about the intermediate unit, what programs we had to offer. Certainly I found things that I wasn't my niche, but certainly through that found that early childhood, it was great for me to be able to use my early childhood degree back in the early intervention program. So I feel like I came full circle because of the community college. So I'm grateful to get to come back and, support it and do good things.
Great, thank you. I wasn't sure if Robin, our head of the special education department, might want to follow up with any questions or conversation with you. Sorry to put you on the spot, Robin.
No, that's fine. It's just great to see familiar faces and just to hear the wonderful stories, the journeys that the students have had along the way. I've just been really touched and impressed and everything. I just wanted to say briefly, for those of you who may or may not know, we do have, starting fall 2021, a new special education program. It's a special education AA. So what that means is that students who come to Northampton, if they are interested in becoming a special education teacher, they can start that path at Northampton and then transfer on to a four-year college and pursue a teaching certification in special ed. They also, if students are interested in special education but are not sure they want a bachelor's degree or where they want to go, they can complete the 2-year special education degree and be well prepared and in a good position to work as a paraeducator, in some places a substitute teacher, or in some other capacity in special education. So anyone interested can drop me an email and contact me, and can set you up in terms of any summer courses to get you on the pathway for the AA degree if you're interested, and also talk to you about future courses next fall. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm going to pause here and see if anybody has any questions that they would like to ask, or Chris, if you saw any questions in the chat that you wanted to just throw out there before we let Lynn get on to, I don't know, defend a dissertation or something.
Yeah, no, I think this has been a great group for answering each other's questions. So I don't think I missed anything. If I did, somebody please please put your question back in the text box. I had a lot of people texting me directly as well. So I did want to add one comment. I know that we have some students on tonight who are participating in Pennsylvania's student tuition program. So if you're currently a student who's working in an early childhood center, you might be eligible for tuition reimbursement or tuition payment through PASHE, which is our current PDO. If you're not sure what that is, or you think you might want to check out if you're eligible, please shoot me an email at clincoln@northampton.edu. I can send you the link. They're funding up to 24 credits a year, and I know a lot of people are taking advantage of it. So it's been great.
All right, any brave students that want to ask questions?
It looks like Kara's asking about transfer. So maybe if some of our alumni can just talk about the transfer process, maybe the difference between being at NCC compared to a bachelor's program.
Go ahead, Sarah. I saw you unmuted.
Sorry, since I graduated last year. I went to DeSales, which was personally for me was really nice because my class sizes were still really small. I think I only had like a max of maybe like 15 to 20 students in my class. So it was like being at Northampton still. I had like the small class group. I pretty much moved through the classes with the same group of girls and boys. So we kind of formed that relationship, which was really nice because you got to know each other. And lean on each other when you needed that. We also had an ed lab, and we used to go in there and do everything. In terms of work base, for me, I went from being a part-time student with my associates to a full-time student with my bachelor's. So honestly, it was just the amount of classes. The other thing that was different for me was due to where I went at DeSales, I couldn't take anything online just because of how they do it. And I was used to being able to take as many classes as possible online just because that's what fit with what I needed with my son and schooling. But work-wise, you do have more because now I was taking like 5 classes or so. The field experiences were a little bit larger. I do think I was doing I had to do 40 hours for most of them, or maybe not. I guess that's kind of like what you do at Northampton too. So it honestly, I felt prepared minus just adding a class to it. I think Northampton really set me up for it. Paper wise, I had people that were complaining in my classes about doing papers. I was like, oh, I already have done this. And same with lesson plans and everything. I really think overall, Northampton really set me up to get me set with that. So really it was just instead of taking maybe 2 or 3 classes, taking 4, maybe 5. The field wasn't that different. Either just what you had to do and everything like that too. I actually think I may have done less lesson plans for my bachelor's in my fields than I did at Northampton. So, but yeah, so I think you'll be really well set with everything you do. So yeah, I hope that answered. If it didn't, I'm sorry. You can ask me something more specific.
No, that actually really helped. I was interested into sales as well.
Yeah, I did DeSales in 2 years. My goal when I graduated at Northampton, not that this should be your goal, but where I was in my life was to get the most out of it and to get out as soon as possible. So I finished it in 2 years. I did 3 semesters of classes and then my internship, and I was done. So I have a lot of friends from there. I had friends from Northampton that came with me, and it was nice to go in and have familiar faces and then go out with that. And make new friends. So if you have any questions about DeSales after this, please feel free to ask me. So yeah.
I really appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sam had an awesome question about transferring from Northampton to ESU, and is it seamless? It is, but at the same time, it depends on the content area or your concentration that you're going to be going into. When I transferred in long ago, I actually mapped out exactly what you're going to be looking at when you're going to be transferring over there. And I took 1 or 2 classes over the summer to help maximize the time that I was not going to have to be there for. And that kind of helped me slingshot the time management requirement of where do you want to see yourself graduate at. The class sizes are somewhat similar depending on the actual class itself. I know in some of the math classes you may have like 7 to like 12 kids, depending on what level you're going into. The education classes could be from like 11 to 18 or 20, depending on what area you're going into. If you're early childhood to elementary, it may buffer a little bit where it'll get a little bit more. But as you get to like that specific content area, seminar, PDS, once you come to the end of the road, you'll start to see like less numbers and more finite people that are going to actually graduate at that time.
I think when it comes to transfer, it's educate and advocate as much as possible, right? So you all definitely, I can't say it enough. You need to be your own advocate and go in knowing what you've taken, what program you want to go to, and really trying to make sure all your classes get counted as classes that will count towards your graduation at the 4-year. And if not, remember there are other institutions out there that may be a little more friendly. And, you know, then you get to make that weight of, do I really want this school and I'm willing to take a few extra classes, or is that transfer of my credits more important? So thank you for sharing that. I know that that's really something that weighs heavy on our students, is what comes next and how does that look?
Yeah, and I would just add to that, Amanda, I think our best transfer partners, so they'll take our entire program, and I'm speaking specifically to early childhood right now, but it's ESU, Bloomsburg, Keystone College, Wilkes University, and I think that's it, which doesn't seem like a long list. I mean, certainly there are a lot of other schools that'll take a lot of your credits, but if you're looking for a true program to program transfer, those are schools you should check out. On the special ed side, Robin and I were able to work with 4 schools to try to get our new AA program transferable for program to program, and that'll be Bloomsburg, ESU, DeSales, and what's the other one?
Kutztown.
Kutztown, yeah. And Kutztown's a good one for early childhood as well. I'm sorry, I forgot to say that. For middle and secondary, ESU and Kutztown are students' best bet.
Well, friends, if you don't have any more questions, we're at our hour, and we've got all very busy lives. So I think the one thing I will allow a second for is, I don't know if there's any other alum on here that wanted to just chime in with a word of wisdom or anything.
Hi, my name is Teresa Devlin. I took the CDA course. I graduated in 2018, and that actually led to my current position working in the pre-K counts, which is similar to Head Start. And I have to tell you, it's very rewarding. I work with at-risk children who have not had the opportunity to get the education that they need to be prepared for school. And we help, the way I look at it is we educate the families, not just the students that come into our classroom. And it helps them get the resources that they may not necessarily have the options of getting. And I have to say that Northampton helped me with that.
Great.
So, thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. Well, congratulations.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
We appreciate you coming on and sharing your story.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, so if there aren't any words of wisdom that you want to leave us with, I'll hand it back over to Karen. We really appreciate everybody coming. I think, you know, it reignites that fire we all have inside of us and the passion for what we're doing and why we're here. You know, and I love hearing everybody's stories and different passions, because you know, we all come into this field not to get rich, right? To make a difference in children's lives. And that's what you're all doing every day, and what we hope to continue to do.
Thank you, Amanda, and thank you to our panelists, and thank you to the students who attended this evening. I'm just going to quickly check with panelists. If you are willing to share a contact email, or if you're willing to connect with our students on LinkedIn, let me know, because we have the list of everybody who's attended this evening, and we can share that information with the students if they would have further questions for you, if you don't mind. Really, I just want to say thank you so much, and we look forward to doing these kinds of events on a regular basis. And I want to thank all the faculty members and Chris Lincoln, who is the director of the program, for the genuine support of this effort. It really makes a difference. So from the Center for Career Development, thank you very much. And Lynn, best of luck on defending your dissertation tonight. We'll be rooting for you.
Good luck.
Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.